Today is bone broth making day and it is so simple. I'm actually challenging myself. I'm gonna make this video in 10 minutes or less so that you guys can see just how simple it is to make your own bone broth at home. It's actually only 5 actual ingredients plus the seasoning. So that's how simple it's going to be. Now, I'm doing chicken. Bone broth is typically either chicken or beef bones. Obviously being bone broth, it's made from bones. So in my Instant Pot, which is by far the easiest way to make a bone broth, is in your Instant Pot. Maybe not so much easy, but time efficient. It's definitely the most time efficient. You can see there's the bones, they're covered with water, that nice healthy fat rising to the surface. It's gonna be delicious. So to start, when you're doing a chicken bone broth, almost always you've already cooked the chicken, right? You made a roasted chicken or you had drumsticks or bone-in thighs, but the majority of time chicken bones are already going to be cooked. If you're doing a beef bone broth, a lot of times you're getting bones from a butcher. You may want to throw those in the oven for 30 minutes at 350 degrees. That's really going to pull the flavor out of it and give you a much better tasting bone broth. So we've taken the bones, we have covered them with water. Then you're going to take your apple cider vinegar. It can be regular white vinegar, but a vinegar. And you want to put in 1 to 2 tablespoons right into those bones and water. That is going to help leach some of the nutrients out of the bones. That's really just going to help get those minerals, the nutrients, the things coming out of the bones and into your broth for us to benefit from. It is also really important to try to get the cleanest bones possible. And by that I mean pasture raised, organic if possible. Really, the better quality life that animal had, the healthier the bones, the higher the nutrient value in the bones, and the lower the toxins. So finding a good organic pasture raised animal, it's really going to give you the healthiest broth you can. So we've got our bones, water, and apple cider vinegar. You want to let that sit for about 15 minutes. You can add the vegetables right now, which is what I'm going to do, or you can wait 15 minutes, throw in the vegetables and seasoning, and then go ahead and get it started. So we're just going to go ahead and throw it in now, and then we'll let it sit for about 15 minutes. So when it comes to making the broth, you typically do celery, carrots, onion, garlic. I've got salt and pepper, some herbs that I like to add. That's generally what you're gonna throw into the bone broth. So I love, whenever the bone broth is all done, I actually pull the carrots back out of the broth and let my dog enjoy them. So they're nice and soft and they've really been filled with nutrients as well. And so I'm just gonna break these up a little bit. Doesn't have to be anything fancy. I did take the tops off, but I'm going to show you a shortcut now. You could absolutely chop up some celery, onion. I just pulled an onion out of my garden. Obviously, you would normally have a larger onion, but I want to show you just how inexpensive bone broth can be. So here's a quick tip. I keep in my freezer a bag of discards, like the carrot tops, the onion, the outer peel. If you have a good organic onion, that outer peel is fine. Throw it in your freezer bag. Don't throw it out. I mean, you can absolutely compost it, or you can save it for bone broth day, and then you don't have to worry if you had the onions or the other vegetables when you're ready to make your broth. You know you already have them. So here's some more onions, all of those things right into the broth. Nothing wasted, right? Same with celery. The celery hearts, maybe those little pieces in the center. This is kind of a better example. Those very center pieces, they're almost all the leaf. The leaf can be really bitter. You can just throw those right into the broth and you have celery. Again, no waste whatsoever. And then, so that's the onion, the celery. We already threw the carrots in there. Sometimes I throw cabbage in here. I might have pieces of cabbage. You can save those pieces of cabbage and throw them in there as well. And then some garlic. Sometimes I save the outer peels and the outer pieces of garlic. Well, that's actually cabbage, but I don't have any. So I'm gonna smash this garlic. I forgot to bring my knife. It's always good to smash your garlic. That really, as the air hits it, it releases some really good enzymatic action inside your garlic. So the longer the garlic is exposed to air, the more time it has for those enzymatic reactions to occur, making it even healthier. So, okay, I've got all three smashed. We're gonna leave them sit there for a minute before we throw them into the broth. Okay, when it comes to herbs, this is truly a personal choice. Just remember, herbs are more than just flavor. Herbs are really very beneficial to your health. So my three favorite herbs to put in bone broth are parsley, oregano, and thyme. Go into your cabinet, smell some of your herbs. If you're not used to using herbs a lot, smell them. Which ones aromatically appeal to you, knowing it's gonna go into your bone broth? So you could measure this, I just don't. I'm gonna guess it's anywhere from 1.5 to 2 teaspoons I put in there. I just sprinkle it, right? Just sprinkle a little over the top. And again, the oregano is antimicrobial, so it really helps to balance the inside of your body. Viruses, fungus, different yeast, all of those things, oregano helps control. So it's actually so beneficial for your gut, which is where 70% of our immune system is. So here's parsley, right? Parsley is just a staple in so many things. We're gonna throw our parsley in there. And that's my herbs. Last but not least, a little bit of salt and pepper. Now, if you're gonna use this broth as a base for soups, I would say go light on the salt because people like to salt things quite frequently. I personally just drink my bone broth. I'll pour myself a mug of bone broth. Another excellent thing to use it for is for cooking. So you're gonna cook some vegetables, you're gonna cook some meat, rather than using an oil, just use your bone broth. I'm telling you, chicken cooked up in chicken broth, it has so much flavor, it's delicious. So I use about 1/2 tablespoon of salt and then maybe 1/4 teaspoon of pepper. It's not a lot, but it is enough to bring out the flavor of the broth. Like I said, you can always add more salt, you can't take salt away. I prefer a pink Himalayan salt or a Celtic sea salt. They're a little bit healthier. They don't have a lot of the additives and they have a lot of the elemental nutrients. So those can be a really good salt choice. And that is actually it. You don't even have to stir that up because it is going to be bubbling and mixing itself up. Now, in the Instant Pot, I did not have a plug. I could not plug in my Instant Pot. Oh, my garlic. All right, I almost forgot. My garlic was sitting there. You can just throw the clove in or you can cut it up. Whatever, because you're just gonna discard all this actually. But when you make a broth in the Instant Pot, you set it at the highest amount of time on the manual setting. So for my Instant Pot, that's 240 minutes. So I would put the lid on, plug it in, and set it on the manual setting for 240 minutes, which is the highest amount of time that my Instant Pot will allow. After 240 minutes, turn it off, let it cool. You strain everything out but the liquid. Again, carrots are great for giving to your dog. And you have bone broth, just like that. You can freeze it, you can can it. I always keep some in my fridge because like I said, it's a great soup base, it's a great drink, it's a great base for cooking vegetables and meats. So it has so many uses. There's almost always a jar in the fridge. And another good thing to remember, why would you want to make bone broth aside from the fact that it's delicious, right? It's so healing. Bone broth has so many nutrients, so many minerals, plus collagen that our body requires. It's really one of those ancient remedies that when people were doing it, they didn't understand all the science behind it. They just knew chicken broth is beneficial, especially when you're sick. So Collagen is good for you from head to toe. Your hair, skin, and nails, joints, all benefit from collagen, absolutely. And then the vitamins and minerals, it has a lot of key daily nutrients and minerals that our body requires in order to just maintain an overall health. It's also excellent in helping heal the gut. So our gut needs to be healed and sealed. If you've ever heard of leaky gut, that means things are leaking through your gut that shouldn't be there. We need to seal some of those gaps back up and keep them working properly. Bone broth is excellent for that. 70% of our immune system is in our gut. Super important to take care of that gut. So bone broth on a regular basis is always a really good idea. And I've just shown you how simple and how inexpensive it can be to make a bone broth. Not a lot of ingredients, not a lot of expense, particularly if you use the discarded vegetables. There's really no waste whatsoever. I should say one thing about bone broth is that it does have histamines. So if you're someone who struggles, you find you have a lot of allergic responses to different foods and things, definitely try bone broth. Don't just go all in and drink a huge cup of it and see how your body reacts. Take your time, sip on it a little bit, see how your body reacts. Make sure you can tolerate it. The same is true with our animals. That higher histamine can be a little bit harder, so I don't recommend giving your animals bone broth on the daily. That can actually kind of affect them adversely. Maybe occasionally, like I said, the carrots coming out are still really a great treat for them, but it's certainly not something that I would suggest giving to your animals daily as well. As people, if you can drink it daily, absolutely, the benefits are numerous. There is nothing wrong with drinking bone broth daily for us, as long as, like I said, you don't have a histamine issue. So I am super excited to see if any of you are going to try to make your own bone broth.